protecting Main Street from Wall Street. It's Chris Hoffman with Money Unleashed.
How much money do you put into your checking account from work on a month-to-month basis? It has a high probability that with your investable assets, we can replace that paycheck.
It's time to put you back in control of your money.
You've worked for 35 years. It's time for you to not stress. It's time for you to enjoy and live the retirement you want to live.
It's Money Unleashed with Chris Hoffman.
Welcome into Money Unleashed with Chris Hoffman of the Hoffman Financial Group. We appreciate you checking out the podcast. As always, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and catch Money Unleashed on 95.5 WSB in Atlanta from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. each and every Sunday. Now, Chris, we've covered the need to properly understand and manage our workplace retirement accounts pretty much every single week on Money Unleashed. It's a constant topic of discussion, and with the 401k getting a lot of attention since it's the primary vehicle for so many retirement savers, the Wall Street Journal believes it's time to bring the 401k into the 21st century. Now, that article discusses the shortcomings of the 401k model and suggests a few ways to fix it. But, Chris, we're nearly 5 decades into the 401k rising to prominence and taking over as that primary retirement vehicle. They were, for lack of a better term, a game changer, but have they changed the game in the right ways? I think that's probably the question.
Great question, and I applaud the Wall Street Journal for having this article. And I agree. It's time to bring the 401ks into the 21st century. They've been they were launched. It was almost like a pre-launch. It was, okay, well, let's try this and let's offer a bunch of mutual funds. And then they migrated to index funds, which was an improvement. But still, it's a two-trick pony. It's stocks and bonds. And what's the other option? Cash. But if you're working, you shouldn't be in cash. So you got two options, and that's as far as asset classes, stocks and bonds. And then you've got, 10, 20 different investment solutions to pick from. So, that's a great starting point. And that in the 80s should have worked fine, and maybe in the 90s. But the 401k is not adding multiple asset classes and true diversification strategies. And the 401k is deemed and named as a retirement account. So we're supposed to be growing our money in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Late 50s, 60s, you've got a bucket of money there, and you need more than just stocks and bonds to make sure that you've got a complete and full portfolio mix. And 401ks, unfortunately, don't do it. I'm also worried about the 401k fee structures, which have gone largely unreported. I mean, we have to pull the plan documents, which are, and I don't know if it's an exaggeration to say hundreds of pages. We pull the plan document on every 401k that a client potentially rolls to an IRA, and we scrub down into the fees to see what that comparison's going to look like. And we look at all the options as far as investment solutions, too, to make sure that we actually are enhancing it and we're not just flipping it over to an IRA and replacing it with the same investment choices. But nobody's paying attention to the 401k. And I think it's got to be the largest retirement asset out there. No question, right? It's bigger than TSPs. It's bigger than 403bs. So it's broken. And now the question is, who in the government's going to take this by the horns, wrestle it to the ground, and make the fees more reasonable, because on 401ks, I don't believe they're reasonable, and also force these 401k companies or the custodians of the 401ks to offer advisory services. That's largely not happening. So if you have a 401k and you do not have a specific financial advisor assigned to you that not only will manage your 401k, but will also guide you on if you should move it to an IRA or not, or do they lose all of the assets if they move it from a 401k to an IRA? So ask yourself this question. If they can't allow you, or if they don't offer an option of moving your 401k to an IRA, is that because they aren't able to manage it for you? Is that because they're unable to collect a fee on it? I suspect the answer is yes. So your 401k company, the custodian of that 401k, and even if you're linked to an advisor at that 401k, they are solely focused on keeping you in that 401k to retain you as a client. That's not healthy. And that all needs to change. I mean, You should be able to manage the 401k and manage IRAs and manage after tax and manage Roth IRAs and be the advisor. That would work. Look, that would be great if you could start with a company and work there for 10 or 20 plus years and accumulate wealth in your 401k and align with a financial advisor. And that financial advisor could take you through each decade. That would be a formidable relationship to form, I believe.
Yeah.
But that's impossible because the 401k companies do not manage your assets outside of the 401k. I don't know if they refer you to somebody else in their firm, if it's housed at Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard. But when I talk to people that come in for the first time, they say, no, I'm not assigned an advisor. Or if I am, it's just to ask them a question about, well, if I buy this fund, how do I do it? It's not deep financial advisory.
No, it's customer service.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's one of the biggest flaws I see in the 401k, and hopefully we will make some progress. I mean, they announced 3-4 years ago, maybe longer now, that they were going to introduce income annuities to kind of offset the loss of pensions. I haven't had one person call and come in and say, yes, here's an offer by my company to invest in an income annuity. Can you assess it for me?
Yeah.
So it was, you can do it, but nobody's forcing the companies to offer them because they don't know the insurance world. They don't know annuities. They don't even know pensions anymore. So there are some holes in the 401k. I'm not saying do not invest in the 401k. You certainly want to invest every bit of available money, at least up to the match. So whatever your match is, you do not want to throw that money away, right? That would be like stepping over hundreds or thousands of dollars.
And who would do that?
So invest at least up to getting your match. From there, I would do Roth 401k. I would do some after-tax investing and diversify your portfolio that way. To not be all your eggs in one basket's never a good idea. So this is a prime example of it. A lot of you have all of your money or a majority of your money in a 401k basket.
Something else to think about when it comes to the 401ks is in addition to employers offloading the responsibility for covering retirement costs, i.e. the pension, it puts the onus on the employee to do that. There are a few things that can create further responsibility to that average person out there, the one busy trying to do their best to raise a family, work their actual job, do the everyday stuff, and they may not realize these things in a timely manner. So here's an example of that. Many, if not most people these days, Chris, they change jobs frequently over the course of their careers. Now, the frequency can change from person to person, but it could give them a number of smaller 401k accounts. So what happens to those? Sometimes they're forgotten altogether. We've talked about orphan 401ks, but other times people think the best thing to do is to cash those out. According to Vanguard, roughly 40% of workers with 401k balances between $1,000 and $10,000 cash out those accounts when they leave that employer. All these cash outs added up to a total lost savings between $60 billion and $105 billion a year, according to the Employee Benefit Research Institute. So
sizable.
Chris, let me kind of go back to something you were already touching on. How important is the right mindset when it comes to managing the 401k, not to mention knowing your options to keep that money growing in the best ways to preserve it?
Yeah, well, having a mindset that's focused on your 401k is the critical component.
Yeah.
Because the majority of folks out there are working hard in their job, and they're assuming, yep, I'll just contribute to the max and dump it all in there and pick a few funds and just leave it. It's a very passively managed part of the total investment mix out there, and it's not analyzed. People do not pay attention to it. People do not put a lot of mental energy into managing it. Otherwise, they would diversify, I believe. I believe they would have more tax-free money or taxable accounts. And every year you should assess with your financial advisory team, how much in dollars should I be putting into my 401k and Roth 401k? If you're not analyzing that annually, you're missing the boat because things are going to shift. The size of your 401k is going to shift. The options inside the 401k are going to shift. Packing money into a checking account or a savings account is a bad idea, so you need to open up something else to do that with. And there are multiple asset classes that you can invest in that should serve you better than cash. So I think a lot of people, unfortunately, either because they're not educated on basic investments or they just trust their 401k. It's your company. You feel good about your company. You're loyal to your company. You invest everything in your 401k, and you hope it grows and you hope it's protected. So what I would recommend everybody do is pick up the phone and call us at 404-341-6767 and have us do a portfolio x-ray. At least you'll know what your exposure to risk is, how you're doing on your growth targets versus appropriate benchmarks. And when you're getting closer to that retirement age, whether it's 3 years away or 5 years or maybe 10 years away, you'll know whether you're built to generate a replace my paycheck type of program from your investable assets. And that'll include Social Security and pensions and all of that stuff. So you can't ignore your 401k. It's your largest asset. So you got to invest some time. And I believe you got to invest time in finding the right advisory team to work for you. And you be the owner, and they be the coach, and they run the plays. Yeah. And then they are accountable to putting victories on the board.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious here as we button up this topic, the way that it is managed and the limited options that you do have, do you think that may lull some people into just kind of a false sense of security that, hey, everything's going the way that it should. I don't have a lot of control of it.
Yeah, for sure. 401ks, when you look at the options, people, I think, assume that those options were vetted by the custodian or by the company.
Sure.
And I'm going to argue that they are just the easy outs for the investment custodian. It's just, here's a large cap fund, here's a small cap fund, here's a mid cap fund, here's an international fund, here's the S&P 500 index. Some of them don't even have a NASDAQ index, which is silly, but maybe they do. So here's a NASDAQ index or a Dow index, and that's it? Really? That's all. Those are all the asset classes. Oh, and then they've got a series of bonds. Intermediate bonds, long-term bonds. They don't have muni bonds, obviously, because it's a tax-deferred account. But those are the options. So I think people get lulled into a false sense of they got it covered. They vetted all these. These are good. And then they look at the results and they go, yeah, it was up 15% last year. Okay. Well, the market was up over 20. And does this mirror what the S&P is looking at? Why did it only do 15%? Was that fees? Was it mismanagement? And you want us to do that deep dive for you in a portfolio x-ray and figure all that out. That is a healthy exercise to go through.
Yeah, Chris has laid it out. I can't say it any better. Portfolio x-ray is a great way to size up what you have so that you know what to do with it and where it can take you in the long term, which is the point of retirement planning, quite obviously. Portfolio x-ray is a complimentary service, no cost whatsoever, to get on the calendar and get yours today. 404-341-6767 is our phone number. That's 404-341-6767. Or sign up for your Portfolio X-ray at unleashyourmoney.com. Chris Hoffman is an investment advisor representative of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor and affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and Hoffman Financial Group are affiliated under common ownership. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosures of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV2A, page 4, for additional information. The Hoffman Financial Group and WSB are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the field of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Any client experiences discussed during the show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone. Index or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV2A Item 4, for additional information. Hoffman Financial Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Insurance licensed in Georgia, number 163546.